I want you to try something for me right now. If you are safe to do so, stand up and try to lift one foot off the floor. If you cannot hold that position for just 10 seconds without grabbing a chair or putting your foot down, your body is sending you a critical warning signal. As a physician, I don't look at this wobble as just a normal part of aging. I view it as a neurological emergency. That instability is the #1 predictor of falls, fractures, and the loss of independence after 60. But here's the truth that most patients don't hear. We can reverse this issue in just 2 minutes a day. In this video, I'm going to show you the 4 specific exercises you need to do to walk safely and confidently, regardless of your current fitness level. But before we start the exercises, I want to know who is committed to their health today. Please drop a comment below telling me which country or city you are watching from. I read through your comments personally because understanding your background helps me give better advice. And if you are ready to take control of your mobility, please like this video and subscribe so we can keep you healthy and independent. To understand why we lose our balance, we must look at what is happening beneath the surface. After the age of 60, we observe a condition known as sarcopenia, which is the involuntary loss of skeletal muscle mass and strength. When you combine this with a deterioration in the vestibular system of the inner ear and a reduction in proprioception, which is your body's ability to sense its position in space, you create the perfect storm for a fall. These deficits accumulate quietly over decades. You might not notice them until you try to navigate a dark room or step off a curb, but they are there. The promising news from recent geriatric studies is that neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections, remains active well into your 70s and 80s. We can reverse these deficits with targeted intervention. However, not all movement is created equal. Random exercise is inefficient. We need specific, high-yield movements that target the stabilizer muscles. The first protocol we must implement focuses on static stability. In clinical practice, we often look at the ability to stand on one leg as a critical biomarker of health. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic have identified a profound correlation here, noting that the duration a person can maintain a single leg stance is a potent predictor of longevity, arguably more telling than many complex screenings. When you stand on one leg, you are not just testing muscle strength. You are forcing a complex negotiation between your visual cortex, your vestibular system, and the microscopic mechanoreceptors in your ankles. This is the single leg balance. When you practice this, you are essentially waking up the gluteus medius and the small stabilizer muscles around the ankle joint that have likely gone dormant. To perform this correctly and safely, you must stand adjacent to a stable support structure, like a heavy chair or countertop. Safety is the priority here. We are training stability, not courting danger. With feet hip-width apart, shift your center of mass entirely to the right leg and elevate the left foot. The elevation does not need to be dramatic. Mere inches suffice to destabilize the system and force an adaptation. A crucial technical detail often missed is the state of the standing knee. It must remain soft or slightly flexed to engage the musculature rather than hanging on the passive structures of the joint. Your objective is a 10 to 30 second hold. Clinically, we observe that many patients hold their breath during this exertion, which increases intrathoracic pressure and can cause dizziness. You must breathe rhythmically. By fixing your gaze on a stationary point, you provide your brain with a visual anchor, compensating for any vestibular deficits. We repeat this bilaterally 3 times on each side. You will likely discover an asymmetry, where one side is markedly more stable than the other. This is clinically normal and highlights exactly why this unilateral training is vital for real-world fall prevention. Once we have established a baseline of static stability, we must progress to dynamic balance, which is the ability to maintain control while the body is in motion. This is where most falls actually occur, not while standing still, but while transitioning from one point to another. If you observe the gait of a toddler learning to walk, you will notice a wide stance with feet far apart to increase the base of support. Tragically, as we age and our confidence erodes, we neurologically regress to this same wide-based shuffling pattern. While it feels safer, it actually reduces our ability to react to sudden perturbations. To counteract this, we utilize a neurological drill known as the heel-to-toe walk, or tandem walking. In neurology, we use this to assess ataxia and coordination, but for you, it is a therapeutic tool to recalibrate your center of gravity. Data published in journals focusing on aging and physical activity suggests that a consistent regimen of tandem walking can improve balance scores significantly, upwards of 40% in a matter of weeks. The mechanism here is the narrowing of your base of support. By placing one foot directly in front of the other, you are forcing the cerebellum, the part of the brain responsible for motor control, to work overtime to keep you upright. To execute this, find a clear hallway. Visualize a tightrope. You will step forward so that the heel of your leading foot makes direct contact with the toes of your trailing foot. This creates a momentary instability that forces your core and lateral hip muscles to fire rapidly to prevent lateral sway. It is imperative that you maintain an upright posture with your gaze directed forward at the horizon, rather than down at your feet. Looking down relies too heavily on vision for balance, whereas looking forward forces you to rely on somatosensory input from your joints, the very system we are trying to rehabilitate. If you find 10 steps manageable, the advanced clinical progression is to close your eyes, removing visual input entirely, though this should only be attempted with a spotter or handrail nearby. This exercise essentially rewires the neural pathways between the brain and the lower extremities, creating a faster, more reliable internet connection for your movement. However, neurological coordination is futile if the structural hardware, the muscles themselves, cannot support the frame. This brings us to the absolute necessity of preserving leg strength. The rate of muscle atrophy accelerates significantly after the 6th decade of life. We see a statistical decline in leg strength that can result in a 60% loss by age 80 if left unaddressed. This is the difference between living independently and requiring assisted care. The half squat is the gold standard for functional preservation. Unlike a deep athletic squat, the half squat targets the functional range of motion required for activities of daily living, such as rising from a commode, exiting a vehicle, or standing up from a dining chair. When performing the half squat, your mechanics are paramount to protect the knee joint. Using your support surface, stand with feet shoulder width apart. The movement must be initiated by the hips, not the knees. You are pushing your pelvis backward as if reaching for a chair that is slightly too far away. We only descend 6 to 8 inches. This range recruits the quadriceps, hamstrings, and the gluteal complex without placing excessive compressive force on the patella. A critical error I see often is the knees collapsing inward or tracking over the toes. You must keep the weight in the heels and the chest elevated. We aim for moderate volume here, perhaps 3 sets of 5 to 8 repetitions. By controlling the tempo, taking 3 seconds to lower and 3 seconds to rise, we increase the time under tension, which stimulates muscle protein synthesis without the need for heavy weights, while we have addressed balance, coordination, and major muscle strength. There remains a specific, often overlooked muscle group that is frequently the culprit in trip and fall accidents. I am referring to the hip flexors, specifically the iliopsoas muscle group. These muscles are responsible for lifting the thigh upward during the swing phase of your gait. In our modern sedentary lifestyle, sitting for prolonged periods causes these muscles to become tight and weak. When the hip flexors are weak, you physically cannot lift your foot high enough to clear the ground comfortably. This leads to the senile shuffle, where the feet drag slightly, drastically increasing the risk of tripping over rugs, door thresholds, or uneven pavement. To target this specific weakness, we utilize seated leg raises. This is an isolation exercise that is deceptively simple but highly effective. You will sit upright in a rigid chair. Posture is key here to ensure we are isolating the hip and not compensating with the lower back. With feet flat, engage your abdominal wall to stabilize the spine. Then, purposefully lift one leg until the thigh lifts off the chair, holding the extension for 2 to 3 seconds. The focus must be on the contraction at the top of the movement. You are training the brain to actively recruit these lifting muscles. We then lower the leg with strict control. Do not let gravity do the work. The eccentric or lowering phase is where significant strength is built. We typically prescribe 8 to 12 repetitions per leg. If you wish to progress this movement, dorsiflexing the foot, pulling the toes toward the shin, will engage the tibialis anterior, the muscle responsible for clearing your toes when you walk, giving you a dual benefit. This simple movement, performed consistently, restores the mechanical ability to take confident, full strides rather than short, shuffling steps. It also contributes to better lumbar spine health, as the hip flexors are directly connected to the lower vertebrae. In summary, we have covered a comprehensive protocol: single leg balance for proprioception, heel-to-toe walking for dynamic coordination, half squats for functional power, and seated leg raises for gait mechanics. The medical reality is that consistency is the most potent drug we have. We are not looking for high-intensity athletic performance. We are looking for daily submaximal stimulation of these neural pathways. I challenge you to view this not as a workout, but as a daily prescription for your independence. Commit to this 2-minute routine every day for the next 2 weeks. The physiological adaptations that occur in that short window can be life-changing. It is important to remember that the goal of longevity medicine is not just to extend the lifespan, but to extend the health span, the period of life spent in good health, free from disability. By maintaining your stability, you are protecting your future self. I am very interested to hear which of these 4 interventions you will implement first, so please document your commitment in the comments section. In our next discussion, we will shift our focus to the nutritional aspects of sarcopenia and the dietary mistakes that accelerate muscle loss. Until then, choose one movement, execute it with precision, and take an active role in your own healthcare.